Welcome to Convention Tea, the show where we talk about con culture from our couch because we can't go to cons right now. Any hoot. Each twice a month we'll be going live and we'll be just talking about aspects of convention culture. Let's just introduce ourselves. So, we are Scarlet Rhapsody. We have been covering anime conventions since 2003. I founded the website back in 2002 when I was just a college student and I just wanted a place to just talk about my experiences at conventions. So it kind of started as this university student just going to cons and just blogging about them, taking photos. We've expanded into podcasting. We've done convention music videos. We've been guests as panelists. Jared here, he didn't join us until much later. So around 2009 to 2010 when we needed a copy editor, but obviously he has a lot more skills than just being a copy editor. And we also have our friend Ramses also joining in with us with Scarlet Rhapsody, and we also have some help on the East Coast, Lee May. She also helps us with some of our East Coast coverage. So, Scarlet Rhapsody, we pretty much just talk about convention culture on our website, even though content has been kind of dry. It's kind of hard to cover online conventions. I really feel I really like talking about the experience of just being there, because every con has a different kind of vibe. And I do like going to online conventions and everything, but a lot of times I don't find out until the very last minute. Or
the advertising for online conventions.
Yeah, marketing.
And marketing and advertising for online conventions is not great. I just got a message from my brother.
What's your brother up to these days?
I don't know. I just read half of it and then it disappeared. So it's the middle of talking about how online conventions aren't advertised well enough.
So we're a pair of childless millennials who just conventions are a great escape for us. And related to this presentation, we've also ran a panel called Convention War Stories, Stories of Convention Survival. And we wanted to expand upon that as kind of our bi-monthly live stream series on that. And it was actually inspired to me actually about 2 years ago before lockdown, when a high school student came up to me. He's like, yeah, have you ever had any horror stories that happened in your time when you were going to conventions? I've seen fire, I've seen rain. All right, let's introduce you, Mr. Azurlanes.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, seriously, you're up for your first introduction.
I understand. It's just the novel, or is it the actual... Double check if that's the novel, or they actually have a module. You can explain who I am.
Okay.
D&D is kind of D&D stuff. For those who don't know, I live stream D&D stuff, and there might be some D&D stuff that There's definitely some D&D stuff my brother is getting, and I have questions.
All right, you sure you want me to talk about you?
I'm a guy who started cosplaying in around 2008. I've been going to conventions since 1994. Mostly sci-fi stuff. I didn't start going to the Japanimes until about 2000, 2001-ish, when all I thought was there was just Anime Expo. Not only because I'm from a Southern California state of mind, but also the fact that I didn't know how to internets to find other conventions in other states until I got a little bit older. I'm an award-winning AMV creator. I am an award-winning Masquerade writer. I do panels. I am beloved by many and hated by some. Man out of time, out of place.
And just kind of as an icebreaker kind of thing, just as people are just coming in, finding out about our stream, there's been a hashtag called Natsucon. And basically, what would you be wearing if Katsucon was happening this weekend? Jared, explain your cosplay choices.
I just kind of basically chose, I think, only one or two of these things on this list, like Giovanni and, I think it might be the only one on there.
Yeah, we got Giovanni, New Gil, Char's counterattack Amuro, Todoroki in his hero outfit, and from Demon Slayer.
Which is not who I originally said I wanted on that list.
You wanted the Snake Dude?
I wanted Snake Guy. But yes, the general idea was I took stuff I would have had made last year, because obviously there wouldn't be enough time to make me anything new before Katsucon. So it had been stuff that had last year been a proper convention year, and these are most of these things would have been things that would have been new to me because I don't have a Todoroki, I never got CCA Amuro, I don't have anything Demon Slayer
Yet.
But Bright and Geo have been part of my list for a while.
And then you Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Based on one of the anniversary cards.
Yes, it's
Fancy Komodo,
right?
yeah. Because I'm also doing an anniversary
would have been nice.
card saver.
Also, I want to get his summer variant because that would just be a really comfy cosplay to walk around in. Since I have almost everything, I think I need like the jewelry. I just need the
All right,
jewelry
let's go to
point.
Etsy and find some jewelry, or like hire an unfortunate soul to commission for us. Hi, Starlight Creations. Can you commission some necklaces for us?
Yeah, because it's like a necklace, I think some bracelets, and it's like a blue button-up shirt and like gray pants or white pants. I have to check the pants color. But it looks very comfy for the summer, not to worry about anything.
It's like Uniqlo chic.
Yes.
For men. All right, and here's mine. So I'm Scarlet Aznables, and these are just some of the cosplays I've done. I'm very much known for cosplaying as Sailor Mars on the West Coast, which is funny because when I was living on the East Coast, I was pretty much known for cosplaying as Super Sailor Moon. One of my latest cosplays is Shinobu from Demon Slayer. Love that costume. Picked it off of Doki Doki Cosplay a few months ago. Got a chance to do a social distance photo shoot with a buddy of mine. And then also one of the first cosplays I've made is this version from Vocaloid of Luca of the Magnet song about forbidden love. And if I were at Katsucon this weekend...
I like your list.
Huh?
I think I adjusted things on my list so it fit your list a little bit better.
So, day 0, I will be wearing this version of Cheshire from Azur Lane, the game that he is playing right now. I actually did pick up this skin.
Indeed.
And then I would also be cosplaying as Enterprise, also from Azur Lane, on the first day of Katsucon, which is also the first day of Lunar New Year. But I would probably be overthinking because, oh no, I'm wearing white Lunar New Year. What do I do? And then I also have Relina Peacecraft, because I'm still will be working on this version of Relina. I would wear that for the formal ball.
Show up as the queen.
Mm-hmm. And then I also have the maid version of Shinobu, which is the latest costume I received in the mail. Haven't tried it on yet. I probably will do like a self-shoot of that. Nice lighting ring I got set up. My nighttime party / karaoke cosplay would be Setsuna Yuki from Love Live. And I probably will be rocking out some 80s hair metal as Setsuna Yuki because I bring the fire, like Setsuna Yuki.
And my joke when you said that was, we should change it, that I'm dressed as Lacon Stratos or as Alleluia, Haptism.
If you know, you know. And then my last minute cosplay, the cosplay I would be roped into doing probably 2 weeks before, like, hey, our Usagi dropped. Do you want to do this version of Usagi? Can you? We know you can make stuff in like a day or two's worth time. Like, okay, I'll go as this version of Usagi and I'll like wear like an overcoat over it on the way to the airport.
You always do that. Versus I find costumes where I'm just missing a part or two and then I can go to and from airport. Although usually on day 0 I do not airport in costume, but on day 4 or day 3 or whatever the last day of a con is, I'm always thinking, what can I wear where if I take off the wig, or even if I keep the wig on, could I just walk through the airport? And that's usually my deciding factor for Final One. Unless I'm driving, then, well, someone's driving. If it's a car event, then who cares? But if it's a flying one, if I'm flying out to Anime Central, I have to think about that last day and go like, okay, what can I wear that could just go through the horribleness of ORD?
Yeah, that's why, like, for the longest time when I was going to Anime Central, my tradition was wearing Yumiko Reedman on the last day of the con. So I could just go on the plane directly after the convention. Like, yeah, it's pretty much like normal clothing. So what?
I think you got the wrong plane. What is the code for...
Huh?
What's the 3-letter for the Chicago airport? Not Midway, the bad one.
The bad one, ORD.
I was right for already.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
O'Hare. All right, so why are we broaching this topic, cosplaying with anxiety?
As it turns out, a lot of nerd types have anxiety issues. It's not that big a deal because if you know that other people have it, then it's just kind of like it's part of life. And I'm not saying everyone who goes to cons has anxiety issues, and I'm not saying every nerd has anxiety issues. Let's get all the remember, only a Sith speaks in absolutes. But what I am saying is there are a lot of people in that category. I've known plenty of people. You've known plenty of people. We are both people in that category. And I feel that it's better to just outright say, yes, people have anxiety issues. Whether it is claustrophobia, whether it's a social anxiety, whether it's OCD like me, you're going to have something going on where it's going to cause you some trouble. And then there's just normal stuff. Like, oh no, I'm nervous about Masquerade. I'm nervous about this. I'm nervous about that. Oh, I'm going to meet my favorite voice actor, artist, whatever. I'm really nervous. Like, that's all just human to do that.
So one of the reasons why we also want to talk about this topic as well is like we've seen like several quote unquote mental health panels at conventions that didn't really broach the topic even of mental health appropriately. Just a disclaimer right now. Technically, I do have licensure in mental health, but I've been out of practice since 2015. So I do have some capacity to talk about it, but again, we're not really talking about like, hey, this is how you can resolve your anxiety. We just want to share our experiences as two people who live with anxiety, just kind of what we might encounter on the convention floor, stories of how we had to deal with it, or cases to be made for how conventions can do better, or as a community we can do better when our brothers and sisters and everyone in between have a panic attack or experience anxiety at a con. So this is kind of like a prototype for maybe a bigger panel, a bigger discussion, but someone has to get the conversation started.
More importantly, this will give you some ideas that if you do have a friend or a loved one who is going through this, you have a way of helping them. And if you're going through it, you can then maybe use some of our examples to tell your friends or family or whoever you're going for, saying like, hey, if this happens, can you just make sure to grab me, throw me over your shoulder, and head for the hills, or get me a glass of water or whatever you may need. But to try to remove the stigma of anxiety disorders and things like that is very important. And the stigma of mental health in general, I think, is definitely something we should go against getting rid of. As for me, I have no professional background in this area. I took several psychology classes in college. It was an area of fascination to me. Most of my information comes from personal experience and from human observation.
Okay, let's talk about our experience with anxiety. So, Jared, you can go first and just talk about how you live with anxiety.
So, my journey is a little bit more different than everyone else's. When I was in high school, I was essentially diagnosed with anxiety and panic attack disorder because I'd have a lot of panic attacks in high school. As it turns out, I did not go to a very... my high school life was complicated, let's say that. What I learned when I got a little bit older and had a little more analysis done on me is that I was actually obsessive compulsive. A lot of my behavioral things fall in that category. So the idea of what I learned eventually was I don't like my skin being touched, like in general. It actually takes a lot of comfort for me to get used to someone touching me. It feels really weird when someone I don't know touches me. Even little things like just wearing shorts and having the wind blow my legs bothers me, or short sleeve shirt and have the wind blow my arms bothers me a little bit. Not as much for the arms because I was told when I was a little kid, if you blow on your veins when you're hot, it'll cool you off faster. So I guess I'm more used to wind blowing. But the point is, when I learned that those were my issues, I found ways of working around them. One of the big problems is at a lot of conventions, you'll get crowds. So again, when I was younger, I thought I was claustrophobic. It turns out it's just triggering my OCD on such an insane level, I have a panic attack. And it looks like claustrophobia, but it's actually not. And so I was lucky I had friends who just went on the point of, this is claustrophobia, and if this happens, I will help Jared get out of here. And I have a couple stories, one about a friend, one about actually a voice actor of all people, helping me out, actually two voice actors. The cast of a certain anime series in English are actually really awesome people.
You also don't mention it here for this presentation, but you also had a Star Wars author also help you out when you offered to help out when you had a migraine and needed to get back to the car.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
We love you, Timothy
I
Zahn.
don't consider that anxiety, but Timothy Zahn, yes, was very helpful to me when I had a major migraine. He's good people. Him and his wife, super awesome.
Okay, so my experience with anxiety is, I would say it's more like nurture versus nature. I grew up within a strict Asian household, and a lot of the way how I mentally just kind of deal with things comes from that. Also, culturally, we didn't really see like mental health as a thing or something to be treated with. Therapy wasn't really an option because that was a sign of weakness. I went to private schools that didn't acknowledge special needs. They didn't acknowledge anything of that sort. Like, if the only reason you'd be seeing the school counselor or the volunteer shrink they had on campus was if you had like an issue with another student. And I remember I was being asked about this when I was in my master's program. Like, have you ever had any interventions? Not the positive kind of interventions, because I was seeing like one of those trouble students because I didn't really know what I was experiencing or what I was having, so I would act out on that. Getting into things like theater, artsy stuff gave me like a place to like really let out that excess kind of energy. And it wasn't until maybe August of last year I've actually started seeing a therapist. A lot of it came down to factors of having access to health insurance. My previous health insurance didn't cover quality therapy, because when you're looking for a therapist, you want to have the right kind of match. Because the reason why I was turned off by therapy in my younger years is a lot of our counselors that would come to campus, they had a very kind of Karen vibe, and it would just, I didn't really have a great experience with that. Been dealing with posts with PTSD, and I'm just still like just working on my anxiety right now, just day to day. Neither of those define who I am, but it is a part of what I live with every day, and I do my best to just take it easy, take it one day at a time, and just breathe. All right, let's get on our first story. Fire at will.
Okay, so this is something a lot of the newer generation's not going to know about. But
you're going to have to explain this. And we also have a visual.
Back in the day, at Anime Expo, the booths there at the dealer hall were amazing. Not this like, oh, we have some LED light garbage. No, I mean like to celebrate Hellsing.
They had a castle.
It was Pioneer at the time, before they became Genion, and then became Genion before the series was released.
A castle that had beanbags where you can chill.
Castle with beanbag chairs and stuff. Bandai built a theater so you could go and watch, trailers for new Gundam stuff or whatever else they were releasing. And they had another section that was set up with every single card game or hobby thing Bandai Hobby was connected with, including some video game stuff too. And ADV, who is no longer around, but was one of the biggest names in the early 2000s and in the 90s for that matter, they're the people who ended up bringing over Evangelion the first time. They brought over, what was else, some of the other big ones? So Nadesco, but I don't know if that's really a big series, but it's a series that made me happy. And Excel Saga, and Sorcerer Hunters. It's not as good. I was going to say Slayers, but they only brought over like one of the Slayers movies, so it doesn't really count. They had a lot of things like that. Demon Hunter Yoko, Blue Gender was Funimation, excuse me. Blue Seed, 2 different titles. Anyhow, they had a lot of big titles, and they had a lot of cool stuff. The original people who brought us Full Metal Panic, which I have an award-winning A&V of. And what ended up happening is they had this 2-story tower, and at the top part, they'd have someone show up there, and they'd get like a t-shirt cannon or some other type of giveaway things. And when people noticed someone was going up there, people would run to the booth because they want their ADV t-shirt or their free DVD or whatever they were going to give away. I was just up there with my friend, going over like, oh, what they got new, and there's the box into this, yeah, okay, box into that. And I was going around trying to decide, grab something, and then the people noticed that someone had gone up there. They hadn't done the announcement yet, but someone had to get up there first to grab the bullhorn, and swarm of people came in, and I literally turned and almost collapsed. My friend grabbed me by like my shirt collar and put his shoulder down like this, like if he was going to go tackle through people, and bull rushed through the group, knocking people over just to get me out of there as I'm panic attacking and he's dragging my butt. I'm lucky that my friend was a amateur boxer, so he was pretty swole and he could actually. Hey, that's I love that word. It's what the kids use when they're buff. Buff is the term we used to use, but he's swole. He would grab me, bum rush through the crowd, and we got out of the doorway. He leaned me up against a wall, and I'm sitting there just trying to catch my breath. I'm unbuttoning the top buttons of my shirt. I wasn't in cosplay, thank God. And I was just trying to breathe. And he's like, okay, man, we'll wait for you to calm down enough. Then I'll go and get a water for you or something. And suddenly, this giant Samoan man comes up to me. I don't know if he was security. I don't know if he was just there at the con. I'm not certain. He came up to me. He's like, hey, is your friend okay? Does he need any help? And my friend's like, yeah, he's having a panic attack. Just got a whole rush of people around him, and it's just claustrophobia. And the guy's like, all right, cool. If he needs any help or anything else, let me know. And the guy walks off. And I sit there and I'm looking up at the guy, and I look at my friend. I have this look on my face, and I go, and he's like, was there a giant Samoan man who just talked to you? I'm like, uh-huh. Yes, there was. Okay, good. At least I know my senses are working properly. Because it was just, of anyone who could come up, some 6-foot-plus giant of a man just coming up and actually caring enough to say, hey, this guy looks like he's in trouble. What's up, dude? Can I do anything? And, eventually I caught my breath. I was able to stand up again, and I was like, you want to go back to the dealer hall? I'm like, yes, screw it. ADV lost a sale. I can't do it right now. We'll go over to one of the other. We'll go over to the Viz booth and I'll grab something. I whatever. But right now, I think I just kind of want to go home. It wasn't like the last day of Expo. It was probably like the second to last day. So I'll just grab something when they're trying to when they're doing the fire sale on the last day of Expo. I'll find something that'll make me happier than whatever I would have got there. I'm not going back to the ADV booth. I'm not dealing with that happening again. And honestly, all subsequent cons, while ADV was around and they had that giant booth, I've timed it. I waited for them to finish one of their presentation things, and then everyone would disperse, and then I would run up and try to see something and try to time myself, say okay, 10, 15 minutes at this booth tops, then GTFO and go to another booth. If you can't find something you want in that amount of time, there's nothing here that's going to strike your fancy, and you don't want to risk another, being here for 30 minutes and then immediately getting swarmed again. Especially when I soloed Expo, which I did a few times as well. That became very, very cognizant of how much time was passing in order to do that right. I'm glad booths don't do stuff like that anymore, although admittedly, I do kind of miss it. Not because I was involved, just because I really liked that bombast that made Expo seem like it was something special.
All right. Now we'll get to my story. Speaking of Katsucon, Saved by Tea Time. Shout out to the Komiku girls. They probably don't know it, but their panel actually did save me from, well, let's get to the story. Once upon a time, at my last Katsucon, my ex, which we broke up back in 2008, so almost 10 years ago, from the time of this Katsucon, decides he could travel from wherever the hell he was in the world to Katsucon just so he can he had an issue with a friend of mine, so he just thought it would be funny if he would just go to the con just so he can give my friend a hard time. He didn't know that I was attending Katsucon, and I was at Katsucon. I was wearing my Nico maid outfit, which looks hella cute. It's adorable. She has bunny ears, and I worked my butt off on this costume. I was part of a Love Live maid group, and we were really looking forward to just taking off photos together. So before my photo shoot with this group, I decided just walk around the con, walk around the gazebo level, and then all of a sudden, it catches me off guard that I saw my ex. Without going into much detail, this was an abusive mofo. I will leave it at that. And the sight of him, because I haven't seen him since 2008, 2009, whenever I last saw him, and that just triggered a lot of bad energy and a lot of bad memories just coming at me to the point where I just kind of went catatonic at first, stopped in my tracks, and when I saw this guy right here, I just kind of grabbed onto him, and then I told him, yeah, so-and-so's here. And then I just kind of need to just just stop, catch my breath, and breathe for a little bit. And because Katsucon is very much known as photo shoot central.
Every photographer is a dick.
Yes. They were like, oh, can you get out of my shot? I'm like, no, I need to catch my breath. You're a photographer. Repose your client. You figure this out. And yeah, basically this photographer was just being a dick to us.
And I want to point out, this isn't us loitering against a wall smoking cigarettes. This is a person at the edge of a panic attack, kind of collapsed against a wall, because that's what happens when you panic attack. Me and I think one of our other friends there.
No, it's just you and me.
Just me?
Yeah, it was me and a bag of Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, and trying to calm you down and get you some food, and it clearly looked like something was going on. And anyone who's even remotely human would have gone and said, okay, there's clearly something going on right there, and let's not interrupt them. Let's go over to this corner over here. There's a pillar. We can have you pose by this pillar instead of with this chair. Mm-hmm. And that's what a human being would do. And I remember
this is Katsucon. If I remember, not human beings. You told this mofo off because hey, she's having a panic attack.
Yes.
Get a life.
I yelled at the person because I just was not in the mood for someone giving us attitude. Because again, my buddy who helped me out at that ADV one, let's just say it wasn't a Simone guy. Let's say it was some photographer. You're in my shot. He probably would have decked that guy, or at least threatened to. He'd have gone up. He'd have flexed his muscles. What'd you say? And then the photographer probably would have gone hey, I think we'd be really good if we shot over there.
Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, luckily, we're right in front of the Cherry Blossom panel room, which is a beautiful panel room. And by the way, and you can kind of see it in the photograph here. And she's like, you know what? If we can just get to a panel room, just sit in the back row, just so we can just calm down some.
It was right next to us. I think the panel was just starting.
Yeah.
And I think I just helped you up. We walked over. We found some chairs. So I'm there. It'll be quiet here. We'll sit in the back, and then it happened to be.
And it was a very zen kind of panel, so I just really appreciated being there. It's not like one of those Ask a Nation Italia panels, because that would have been really bad. Yeah. And I just kind of just sat in the back there, just for a little bit, just calming my breath, snacking on some Pop-Tarts. And you didn't know this, Comic-Goo Girls, that your panel just really just saved a lot of my sanity and gave me a place to breathe and feel safe. Okay.
Appropriate scissor to just. Not right now.
Of course, not right now.
I noticed it. I'm OCD. And guess what? I got to solve it.
Mm-hmm. OCD on camera. Okay. But yeah, if you catch any of the any panels done by the Comic-Goo Girls, definitely check them out because they do a lot of amazing presentations on Japanese pop culture. And one of the things I do like about Katsucon is they actually do have a Japanese culture track at their con. And if I ever go back, if y'all have a martial arts panel, I'm totally down. I'm starting to get back into martial arts. I mean, my video of me doing a flying crane kick on Instagram just really went viral, 1,000 views in 10 minutes. Wow. All right. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
Okay, cool. That's not how I would have titled it. But
she's major.
She is the major.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, going back to Expo. Expo, a lot of my stories will be Expo stories just because the crowding. And again, a misunderstanding of my disorder. Back in the day, before we, when you had English voice actors, there weren't the booths and stuff. You could see them afterwards. So the only time you could really talk to them would be post-panel. Not that big a deal. Except for when a panel room is completely packed because you have multiple voice actors from Cowboy Bebop. Mary McGlynn, for those who don't know, I believe voiced Julia, minor character. But Steve Bloom was there, Bo Billingsley, voice of Jet, and Wendy Lee, voice of Faye, were all there. And I'm not certain if the actor for Edward was there. I can't remember. It's just been too many years. But I had a couple things I wanted signed. Mostly I had picked up specifically because there'd been a new box set release of El Hazard, The Alternative Worlds. Because I'm not getting my Wanderers box set signed. Like, I go under the comic book, not the Wanderers, excuse me, Magnificent World. Magnificent World box set will not be signed for the primary reason that in comic books, for those who don't know this, if a comic book is signed, its value goes down in comic book value, but it technically goes up in autograph value, assuming you have, a Frank Miller or a Stan Lee. The artwork on the original Pioneer release for El Hazard the Magnificent World on DVD is so beautiful. If there was any Sharpie on it, I would probably lose my mind. Alternative World was just, the regular ass DVDs, nothing really that special. So I was gonna get that signed because what's her name? Leah Sargent was also at that panel. I don't know if she voiced anyone in Bebop. And she was the voice of Nanami from the English dub for that. And I thought there was someone else for there. And actually, technically, Mary McGlynn is the voice of the Bugworm Queen, I believe. So there's a couple of people there. I could get my Elazar box signed. It would make me very, very happy. I went up there, met Mary McGlynn first because obviously I'm like, okay, everyone's going to rush for Wendy Lee and for Steve Bloom because, X99 was still really popular. Bebop, obviously, and a bunch of other things that both of them are in, that I'm like, okay, cool. This side of the room is fine, No, I was wrong. Boom. Everyone, the however many people were maximized at that room, all went up. I was on the second or third row, because I was press. I was there technically covering it for my college. And I'm like, aha, perfect. I'm just going to zip up here. I'll get the signatures. I'll get out. No, that did not happen. Got swarmed. My panic attack triggered. I stumbled out of the group, collapsed near the edge. Mary McGlynn notices me, steps down and checks on me, helps me to a chair, asks me who I wanted the autographs for, gets them, brings the box back to me, and then she and Bo Billingsley help me go around the backside to a doorway where my friends are they see me and hey, Jared, over here. And they get me over to them. And it was, the cast of Bebop are awesome people. And by the way, I've also met Steve Bloom, and I'm not sure if I've ever had the chance to meet Wendy Lee, but I have met Steve Bloom. He is also Aces. There's some really great people in that cast. And, the fact that Bo Billingsley, by the way, still on Facebook, wishes me a happy birthday.
Oh, that's very nice of him.
He is an awesome dude. And one of these days I should thank him again. Hey, you know what? It was probably 15 years ago or whatever, but thank you for rescuing me at Anime Expo.
The one actor I do want to meet again from Bebop is Melissa Fawn, because she also was Glinda in Wicked when it toured LA.
Was she really?
Yeah, she
That's
was
awesome.
Glinda.
She's the voice for Edward, right?
Yeah, she's the voice for Edward.
Yeah, I want to say she wasn't there, but it feels like she would have been. I know they were also promoting Dot Hack at that panel, because that's why Mary McGlynn was there. She's Helba, who is one of the super hackers in the Sign and in the games. And then I think half the other cast were random people, both in Sign and the original games. So I think it was a mixture of Bebop and Dot Hack people. So, but whatever. Super cool. They helped me out, got me to my friends, and then it wasn't even that far. I had to walk before I kind of caught my breath, because there's just that room, and the hallway was fine. And they were like, dude, man, we got to there near the end of the panel because we knew that the horde would happen, and we could just run up and get the autographs for you. And he's like, sorry, we got here late. And I'm like, no, it's cool. I got saved by voice actors. And they're like, so the story's now the best story ever. Yeah, I know it's the best story ever. No, if yes, I've been in that corner and no one had checked on me, not only are all voice actors dicks, but everyone in that audience is a dick. But no, they were super cool to me. My friends were able to help me the rest of the way. And it was actually a really cool story. And because of that, I've constantly, whenever I have the opportunity to run into Mary McGlynn or Bo Billingsley, I try to say hello, or at least be as cordial as I can, especially as press.
All right. This is a situation where I was not experiencing the anxiety, but a friend of mine was experiencing anxiety in running the first ever panel she's ever ran. So this is from another anime convention. I want to say 2015. My friend Christine was running a panel on cosplay photography. And this is the first time she's ran a panel. and she's never run a panel before. And granted, while AAC is a nice small con to like test out panels if you're an experienced like panelist group like Jared and I are, but no, this was like her first panel, and I said I was going to partner up with her on it. Unfortunately, our bus came to the con a lot later than anticipated because there was an accident on the highway from Boston to New Hampshire, Manchester specifically. So then I was just like messaging my friend Christine's like, hey, I'm going to be late, hang in there. But luckily I arrived in on time because part of the presentation was me wearing cosplay to just talk about like this presentation, just acting, posing, what kind of expressions you want to get. It was meant to be like be more of like an interactive kind of presentation. Then like, yeah, here's some slides and blah, 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 which is nice.
This is what a DSL is.
Yes.
And which, by the way, is the way they probably should do those panels because that's the harder part to teach people. You can teach people how to, you can buy an expensive camera. You can teach a person how to hold the camera properly and what have you. But being able to get the cosplayer to actually, like, I'm not talking the whole, like, oh my gosh, I love your Goku, click. I mean, like, you and the person are going to go over to this corner where there's some trees and you're going to have, you know, Lena Inverse looking all like she's doing magic. You can't have her just standing there with trees. She has to be looking like she's casting the Dragon Slave. She has to be looking like, you know, she's eating some food or getting hungry and tired or whatever you're going to do with her. I know all my references are old. Deal with it.
And if you get them, you can be our friends. You can sit at our lunch table.
And that's really, I think, what's more important for a photography thing from my point of view. As I've gone to panels with you and other members in our group that are photography panels, and I'm sitting there going like, I don't care about the technical specs of your camera.
We really should do we should really talk about that one panel for our next one, whenever we do the topic of the panel that goes wrong.
Oh my God, yeah.
I still have notes from that one.
Heck, the panels we were alluding to at the beginning of this could fall into that category.
Oh my goodness, yes. How not to run a panel.
Yeah.
But anywho, to save my friend, okay, so panel was just starting, and I had to get into Nico in Yume no Tobira, which is this costume right here, which is not a bad costume to get in and out of. But at the same time, I had to like know where our room was because we were sharing a room with friends, so we weren't checking in. We had to like track down our friend to get the key, drop off our stuff. And I was just really feeling bad for my friend because I was just consistently updating her because the thing I don't want to happen was like you're not hearing from your panelist partner. Where are they? And I'm the type of person that will always keep in communication with you, like even with the most minute things, especially if I'm running late, so you know what's going on. So I find the panel room. Thankfully, AAC is such a small hotel convention; it's easy to find a panel room.
Yeah.
My friend, poor girl. I mean, granted, small audience. She's just kind of cowering in her chair, just not knowing what to do. So I decided, like, okay, Christine, here's some water. Let's get this panel started. If you want, I can like just do some intro things. I could just ask you questions and questions when you feel ready to talk. Granted, I don't know really much about photography, but I could at least hype up the audience and just kind of get people engaged before my friend felt confident to continue on the panel. Because good job on her because it was her first panel. She wasn't quite sure what to do. She had the knowledge. She had like the backing to talk about it. And she also wanted to also cover like what do you do if you're in a situation where you're not feeling comfortable with the photographer. And she had a lot of valuable information to present. So again, thank you, Christine, for letting me be a part of your panel. I kind of like just as like a model reference person, but also if you ever just need anyone at the con for just anything, Christine, just hit us up because you've always been so kind to us. And we hope you're still doing panels too out on the East Coast. We miss you. All right, headphones saved my life. A lot of times, like you'll see a lot of photos of anime characters with headphones in this presentation, and also on the cover of the thumbnail for this video. Here's why.
So when I would solo cons, and actually technically I still do solo cons quite a bit, or I'm with a group, but then we all divide off and do our own thing.
Yeah, you're riding solo.
One of the things I did, especially to deal with my anxieties, was I would take my iPod, yes, that long ago, and I would have it loaded up with whatever. Usually I'd have video game music on there and some anime music on there, because I'm going to an anime con. Why am I not going to listen to the Black Mage's hard rock versions of Final Fantasy themes, or throw on something of like action packed and exciting, like I'm trying to think of a good soundtrack I usually had on there. Probably the first soundtrack that comes to my mind of having on there is Noir, which
Noir's an awesome soundtrack.
I didn't actually had a lot of Yuki Kajira music, come to think of it. And she usually does have some pumping beats, although there are some chill songs as well on any of her soundtracks. I also had the Xenosaga soundtrack, all three of them, though 2 is my favorite of those soundtracks. Sidetracking. Point is, I would have earbuds in, it'd be in my jacket pocket or my pants pocket or whatever, depending on what I'm wearing. And I wasn't in cosplay, although I did this with some cosplays as well. And what would end up happening is if someone saw me and noticed me, the headphones would be in. It's not that, now I got music blasting while I have also, the crowd noise around me. So it's just impossible for me to hear anyone who wants to say hi. And, I'm just going around a dealer hall or what have you. If I was going to be in a panel room, who cares? But dealer hall or walking, if I have to take a long, it's like, oh, dealer hall, or, room 101 is here, and room 107 is my next panel, and I have to go down put on this, throw on a song, everything's cool. Well, occasionally when people would find me, they'd tap me on the shoulder, and I would be so up in my own world, it was like it would startle me. Plus, again, the OCD being touched thing, and I would go ah, and I jump really high. And if it was a dude, it was always hilarious for them. However, there was a moment at what was the name of the convention? Animagic, and I believe an Anime Vegas moment, where a girl I had kind of been flirting around with, everything was like really kind of fun and cute, did that to me. I did that, pulled up my headphones, like did the whole looking around, saw them, and they gave me one of those hi, bye kind of things. So I was like, well, that just completely destroyed any chance I had of that girl. Yay! Good news. I didn't have panic attacks at a lot of conventions because I did this. Bad news. I screwed up potential relationships and probably ignored some people who thought I was a dick. Because they're just like, oh, sure, you're too good for me now, huh? Oh, you think you're so cool. walking around, dealer hall, ignoring me, bro. And I if anyone I ever hurt the feelings of, or if I ever looked like an idiot because I didn't notice you or what have you because I did the headphones thing, I'm sorry for that. It's just how I was dealing with my problems. When I started cosplaying, I would still do that because it was still a habit, which is great because I'd have my friend with me who would then tap me on the shoulder and go, photo. Sorry. And eventually I had to just stop doing the headphones thing because when I'm in cosplay, people are going to want to stop me for a photo. And again, I'm completely oblivious to the outside world. But it's how I dealt with it. It's honestly something I've thought about on occasion of just bringing back. Because I don't get stopped for photos as often. And in the dealer hall, it's actually my least favorite place to get photoed. Not only because dealer halls are usually crowded, but I hate blocking an aisleway. I feel like a jerk when I do that. Now, unless the convention is 90% dealer hall, like a LA Comic Con is kind of 90% dealer hall. And by that I mean the dealer hall is the main hub of the entire convention. You'll have a couple panel rooms, but it's the majority of the area is going to that dealer hall. Long Beach Comic Con is kind of like that as well, though it does have that huge walkway in the Long Beach Convention Center. So I feel like, hey, but those rooms are at least spacious enough wherein I feel like I can kind of get away with doing a photo there. But at any other convention, I would hate to be at you just mentioned AAC. I hate to be in their dealer hall and blocking an aisle because then it's just me and that photographer are just jerks. Even if I'm just it's just a quick little
Usually
photo.
what I do is if I find a clearing if there's a wall, hey, can we do it here? Because I don't want to block people's walkways.
Yeah.
Because even as an attendee, I get annoyed when people do that.
Yes, I get annoyed as an attendee. It's the golden rule. Do unto others, you have others do unto you. I don't like it when people block the aisle, so I don't want to block the aisle because I know that other people probably won't like that either. But I've still been considering that. I remember when I was at Long Beach last year, it was one of the last cons I did last year. It was just kind of more or less on my own. I was there with other staff members, But I was more or less just kind of wandering on my own most of the time. Like, you know what? If I just had my headphones in right now, this would be a lot more chill. I mean, I'm not feeling anxiety or anything. This is too small of a con to do that. But am I like, just, I could just be rocking out right now. It would make this exploration a little bit more fun. And then people think I'm a jerk because I ignore them.
I actually do have an anxiety story about that and the consequences I had to deal with as one of my stories.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Oh, good. Is that the next one? Is this good lead in, or did I?
No, I don't. Hang on.
It's okay.
Oh, speaking of another anime. Oh, wait, hang on. It went a little bit too.
Spoilers.
I love spoilers. Yes. Speaking of doing console and speaking of another anime convention. Oh, I hate that another anime convention is like the butt of my stories because I love you guys. You're an amazing con. I hope you return when things are better.
It was probably my favorite East Coast convention just because it was so chill.
So when we moved to the New England area, I was the first to move up over there. And I actually did find out about a convention like within the first several weeks that I moved to New England. And this is a convention called Another Anime Con. I learned that it was easy to get to, just take the bus from South Station up to Manchester, and you're right at the hotel. I'm like, hey, this is pretty simple enough. And I've done a lot of traveling. I mean, I've traveled from Boston to New York by myself, like even when I was just a casual tourist. Like one day I went to Boston, like, I'll just do a casual trip to New York just because. But the circumstances that I was with what I was dealing with, like one, I'm not familiar with New Hampshire. I mean, New Hampshire, New Hampshire. My bad.
I don't call it what I call it.
I'm not familiar with the Manchester area, and plus, this is like my first time doing like an East Coast convention, and just kind of like just being away from home. I'm like 2,000 miles away from like my hometown. I mean, yes, while Boston is
Been more than that.
I mean, while Boston is not too far from Manchester, it's just kind of like the idea, like, okay, new girl, new state, am I dealing with? So that's a lot to bear on your mind. And granted, I felt confident enough to like just to figure out and navigate the whole thing. I was rooming with a friend, and at the time, I wasn't quite sure if he had a thing for me or not. So I was just kind of like really nervous about that. But he did mention that he had like a few people in his room too. Okay, so I felt safe about that because I'm very cautious about quote unquote friends who claim to have a thing for me. But if you've been through that situation, you get like just some funky vibes, if that makes any sense. And then I found out from said friend that the rest of the room dropped. And I'm like, oh snap, do I have to find another hotel room? Or do I have to make up the difference of what these people would have made? Because I was like, oh snap. Just kind of like having that anxiety moment. And like, should I even still stay in a room? It's with someone that I don't know too well. And at the time, I really didn't know too well. I was just taking a risk. And not only I was just kind of dealing with that mental anxiety, you were also dealing with that mental anxiety because you were still in the Southern California area.
Yeah, and trying to be there for you with a good, 2,500 mile difference is not easy to do. Because, I mean, look, even if, let's just say hypothetically, I was living in Boston and you went solo, and we're only, 50 miles away or what have you. That's still like not the. Helping someone from a distance is really, really difficult, and I don't envy any of my family or friends who've had to do that for me at various, not even conventions, just sometimes just personal or business-related travel where I've had to have a family member, or friends, I call them and they just start helping me through some stuff.
Like, thankfully, nothing bad happened, but I just kind of had to be on that diligent, kind of like just kind of be on your guard kind of feeling, because I know myself well enough at these conventions to keep myself busy because as press, it's part of my responsibility And plus, I also checked in with you on Facebook because, like, hey, I'm gonna send you selfies anyway, so that's just my way of checking in with you.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of giving you a peace of mind that everything's okay. Everything's okay. I mean, people might read into this like, oh no, overprotective significant other. Like, no, we've been through overprotective significant other situations. This is like there's like 3,000 miles between us. And, like, I'm in a new situation where, like, I feel like anything is game right now. So that was just kind of like the anxiety, just being in a new place and just kind of like just not knowing what might happen. But the way I dealt with it was just, like, just checking in and also just being open to new friendships and also just keeping myself busy because a lot of times you'll hear from people at conventions like, oh, there's nothing to do here. Like, of course there's something to do here.
I hate that.
And I'm going to keep myself busy, and I'm going to explore around town. Found a Hungarian place that I've been meaning to try out in Manchester. There's a lot of beautiful autumn foliage. Yeah. And I was just really amazed by the area and just how pretty autumn looks because I was coming from a world that didn't have seasons, and this has seasons.
I also point out the biggest pet peeve I have for anyone I room with is that person who sits in the room the entire con and is like, there's just like nothing to do here. I hate those people. I go to how many panels per con do I go to? At least 5 panels a day, including in addition to whatever panels I happen to be running. So you can't, if you're rooming with someone and you say there's nothing to do here, and someone in the room is running panels, screw you. The very least you could do is show up to my panel.
Yes, support friends.
Have your headphones on. Watch Demon Slayer on your phone the whole time. I don't care. Just be in the audience to show that, hey, I'm here, bro. I'm not some jerk who thinks that there's nothing to do here, including your panels.
I mean, you and I actually accidentally stumbled into panels like the one we mentioned about the tea ceremony. Because we didn't know that was happening. I just needed to be somewhere quiet.
I knew a panel was starting. We just didn't know what it was.
And then, like, one time, this has nothing to do with anxiety, but you and I just needed a place to sit that was kind of didn't have a lot of volume, and we were in New York. We were at New York Anime Fest.
Oh, yeah. Was that when we were sneaking our food in the back?
Yes, we were sneaking in our food. We sat in the back, and then we went to the lawyer panel. We went to the lawyer panel. But that was actually educational.
It was.
I didn't know what to expect. Like, I don't care what they're talking about. Like, and then I'm just sitting on eating our sloppy joe. I was like, yeah, this is interesting.
Just sneaking out of my jacket. Mm-hmm. I don't think we were allowed to have food in there. Right?
Yeah, we're going to do the food panel. I think that's going to be our next one. Just the times we talked about sneaking in food at cons.
I'm dedicated to me sneaking in food.
I'm looking forward to that presentation. And if you have any food stories, just send that over to us.
I have some fun ones.
All right, you got to calm down some because your story's next.
I know, just give me a moment. I'm sorry. People, you had to have been there. That was just one of those things where, like...
We'll get into more detail about it, the circumstances that kind of put us into that situation.
I know it's funnier for me than it is for like anyone who's going to hear the story. It's like, that's not funny. I'm like, no, it's hilarious. Shut up.
All right. This is one about you just waiting and being annoyed.
Okay.
And here's a photo of you is causing as Professor Tomo on the floor laughing. And you look like you're about to flip off the camera.
So I'm not going to name names here, but one of the worst things that can happen at a convention is when you're waiting for a friend. Because you can have a lot of different versions of this. You can have the friend who's like, okay, dude, we're like we were thinking, I'm waiting here at the panel room. I'm sorry, there's traffic. And that's cool. Like you told someone, hey, I'm sorry, dude, there's traffic. Or, you know, oh, I'm supposed to meet up with this photographer, and then the photographer shows up 20 minutes late, and you're like, dude, where were you? I have things to do. And the photographer's like, I'm sorry, like the last one went long because my cosplay person didn't show up, and so it's just late. But sometimes you'll have a friend who's just like, oh, I can't wait to meet up with you at such and such con. And you go, cool, yeah, we can meet up. I have a friend, ? Who is essentially trouble incarnate. And this person, every year, when it gets to like March-ish, starts going like, oh my gosh, I'm so hyped for Fanime. Let's meet up at Fanime. I want to go to like your panels, and I want to watch your music videos. I'm like, I'm not doing those anymore. I want to watch your music videos, and I want to see this CWF thing you talk about. I want all this stuff. I go, okay, cool. April rolls around. Oh, I'm so hyped. May rolls around. So hyped, so hyped, so hyped. Week before the con rolls around. I'm so hyped, I'm so hyped. Day 1 of con, starts sending texts, calling, 0 reply. Day 2 of con, texts, calling, 0 reply. Day 3 of con, text, calling. About 4 o'clock, I get a message. Oh, was Fanime this weekend? I totally forgot.
Wow.
Anyhow, I'm off at such and such. I'm having a great time. I hope you're having a fun time too. I'm like, well, I just wasted 2.5 days of anxiety wondering if you found your way here, if you were lost, if I totally seemed like a jerk because I missed you, or that you seem like a jerk because you won't answer your damn phone and just say, oh, hey, I can't make it. And you can give me a filler excuse. You give me an excuse of, oh, I can't make it. I found out my money isn't working out well for me, or my hotel room didn't go through, or any number of excuses. I don't need to hear that you forgot about it and you're off in another town doing something else. Give me the courtesy of a lie, please. In that one circumstance, I could use the courtesy of, oh, school stuff. I have a major paper that's due. And I go, that's weird. Your paper should be done by, okay, fine, whatever. And it's like, okay, that happened once. That happened like 2 or 3 years in a row. It is that kind of behavior that the anxiety is the not knowing part. Like, you sent texts and whatever to your friend to ensure that, like, hey, I am coming to the panel, I promise. And we've known photographers who are late but are sending messages. If you're the kind of person who is running late, or you're just not even going to show up, tell someone immediately. Don't do this whole, oh, I'll just wait till near the end of the convention to tell you. Because I get to spend the entire time in anxiety going, when is this person going to show up? Is this going to be one of those like, oh, hey, also can I crash in your room? Because like I need to know this stuff. I'm getting no information and I'm freaking out a little bit, and it's kind of ruining my convention a little bit. In addition to that, the person who would have been coming over is a bit of a troublemaker, a person who could get a little too wasted or get a little too high at the con. And then I have to babysit. You know what's a really good way to make a person who has to babysit someone else at a con feel better? Call them on day 1 and go, oh, I can't make it because filler excuse. Or I double booked and I'm heading off with my cousin to go to such and such. And I go, cool, thanks for telling me. No big deal. I'll see you when I see you. But I had to deal with all that kind of stuff. So it's a different kind of anxiety that wasn't actually connected to my disorder. It was the human type anxiety. This is what it's like being just a normal person. I'm waiting for someone. I'm waiting. And you get that anxiety going of like, what happened? You're not responding to anything. Are you in a car accident? Did you get sick, injured? What the hell's going on? And I hate that type of like no answer stuff. It drives me up the wall. It drives other people. I've seen other people deal with this too. It drives them up the wall as well. If you're a person who does this, stop it. Look in the mirror for 5 minutes. Think about how you would feel if one of your friends did that to you, and then realize you shouldn't do that anymore, and then stop doing it. Because it's a horrible behavioral thing. It makes you seem like a bratty child who just won't answer the stupid phone.
Okay, next story.
I know. That got a little in the rage side, but I want to point out that that's just a different type. That's the reason I put that one in there, is because I wanted the different type of anxiety. And that one drives me crazy. Even thinking about it is getting me worked up.
Mm-hmm. All right, you can just breathe right there. Have your water. And then, speaking of people, conventions, and people thinking that you might be a jerk after the con. When you're at conventions, sometimes you have more than one friend group. When you're at larger conventions, you have friend groups who come from all over the place. And then you'll sometimes, like Anime Expo one year, you'll have a bunch of different friend groups conglomerating in one spot just to say their farewells. And then how do you prioritize who you're going to hug first and say farewell to? My sensory overload is just like exploding, because I'm like, first I see like, oh hey you, blah blah blah, cool seeing you. Hope you had a good time at con. Safe travels. And then like, and a few seconds later, oh hey, it's this group. And then behind me is like, oh hey, local friend, blah 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 blah. And then they just kind of like you have just different groups of like, even though like there's small groups of people, like maybe 2 or 3 people like per group, you just kind of have that sensory overload of like, oh, everyone wants to say farewell all at once. Okay, I'll just kind of go down the line here. This friend lives from out of town. They have family needs that they need to take care of because they took their family over to the con. I'm gonna just give my hugs and farewells first, because when you haven't seen them in a while, you want to give like a meaningful like send off, especially if they have a long ways to go. Then I had friends who are local regionally, but I only see them at cons. We don't really hang out outside of the convention, and I would just have my other friend who's fairly local. They're not too far from me. Okay, they won't take it too personally if I don't hug them. If I hug them last, or so I thought. So after just kind of dealing with that sensory overload of just kind of like just trying to handle it as best I can, to just like send off all my friends after the con, I get a message from Instant Messenger. Who remembers Instant Messenger? I do.
I loved AIM back in the day.
And they totally thought I blew them off the entire con. And it was hard for me at the time to articulate like what I was experiencing mentally, because I didn't have the term sensory overload, or like my neurons firing up a storm, didn't exist in my vocabulary when I was a young lad.
Lass.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you had some surgeries.
Lass is about right. When I was a young lass, I didn't have that in my
This reminds me of how
my
I
vocabulary.
used to add in a little video clip of me always saying something like, if I didn't say hi to you or bye to you at the con, I'm sorry. And I always had reading it off a piece of paper. Which is a reference to The Office, but it was always something I would do just because it's in that mindset of like, dude, we have the internets. We can talk whenever. We have phones.
Yeah, this was a friend that I was like seeing on like almost like a monthly basis because they were fairly local. I'm like, no, I wasn't blowing you off. I had like friends from like out of town who I don't see often, and I just want to give them a meaningful send off. I want to say bye. I want to give them hugs and pats on their heads if they're like little children, because they one of them actually did bring like their 2 tiny kids.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I didn't mean it that way, but they kind of made him all about them, and they were just being a drama queen about like, okay, I'm not talking to you for like a few weeks if you're gonna throw a childish tantrum about it. Yeah, so that was just me like, yeah, sensory overload, so many friends to like acknowledge, and you're also afraid of like doing the wrong thing, and unfortunately here, the person took it the wrong way, even though I didn't mean to. But it was all resolved like maybe a month or 2 later when Hairspray came out in theaters. Like, hey, want to see Hairspray? Sure, let's watch John Travolta in drag. AMV producer time.
Okay, so one of the things some of you who've known me for a long time know I used to do was AMVs. I have several award winners. I did not begin as an award winner. No one begins as no one's first video is an award winner, unless, probably Tsunami Jones back in the day, honestly. He's very talented. But at this point, I decided to start doing AMVs because of a different convention I went to that the contest was so terrible. I was like, I could do better than this. So I proceeded to do so. And I saw that ALA was coming up, which is Anime Los Angeles for those not on the West Coast, which was in Burbank. So it actually should have been AB. But then they got sued.
Anime Burbank.
No, just AB, Anime Burbank. But then they get sued by Anime Boston. It had been a whole mess. The point is, they had an AMV contest. I'm like, this is a small con. It's probably low competition. I'm not expecting to win, but hey, if they like my video enough, I could at least be on the screen, and that'd be pretty cool. So I sent it off, and it was my second video I ever made. I was feeling very proud of myself. And like the second I sent off the CD, I was like, oh God, I shouldn't have done that. And from that point up until the convention, I was like, oh, this is dumb. I'm going to get the rejection letter. Why did I do this? And then I get the message, oh, loved your video. It's in the contest. Can't wait to see you there. And I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. See you.
Coolsies.
It's cool. Yay. The con shows up. And, I got the email like, oh, this is going to be the thing where all the AMV people can meet each other. And we went down to, I don't remember what restaurant was close to I want to say Part of me wants to say Carl's Jr., but no, that was near the LAX hotel. It was a fast food restaurant, some Jack in the Box maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with the fast food options near that convention area.
Anyhow, there was some fast food place we went to, and we all got our food. And I remember just sitting at a table, no one else at my table. It felt like that classic scene in any kind of like 80s high school movie where the person goes to the table, there's just no one there, or if there were people there, they all move away. And I was like eavesdropping on people's conversations, trying to add in a word edgewise, and I was the most awkward, nervous person there. I remember taking like half my food back up to my room because I couldn't even eat. I was so nervous and feeling sick, and I was like, whatever, I'll just finish this for dinner. And I didn't have dinner. I went to the AMVs that night, and thankfully got sat next to some very nice people, one of whom actually really helped me out in those early years and gave me a lot of good advice. And unfortunately, she moved away, and I have lost contact with her. The other one was actually also a helpful person, but went so crazy as years passed that I just kind of slowly stepped further and further away. But at the time, they were both people who had entered. They were super chill, and it was nice just talking with them and just having them calm me down, because I was terrified. I'm like, oh god, everyone's video is going to be better than mine. No one's going to like my video. Why did I send that video? This was the stupid. It was constantly that kind of same thing you would have before, your first masquerade or maybe your first panel. Although not, my first panel was actually a different story. Anyhow, that's the kind of thing that was going on. Contest went fine. The guy in charge of the contest actually became, I think it was a good friend. I made some friends out of that, and I generally was happy with the results of everything. It was kind of one of those things where, I probably got almost no votes. Doesn't matter. Like, it didn't matter at all to me. The fact that my AMV made it on screen. By the way, the next convention I submitted to, I actually did win. So,
yay!
Because that would have been SakuraCon, and I won with National Treasure.
That's good. Good one.
I do love that video. And then the next year at ALA, I would win with 24 the animation, which is a good one also too. One of my favorite videos I've ever made. Mm-hmm. So, but if not for having some support from some other people, I don't know how that would have gone for me. I wonder if my mindset would have been, I'm never making an AMV again. This was stupid. I hate myself. I hate AMVs. But I thankfully had very nice, supportive people giving me some advice and saying hey, that's a really good video for your first time. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And sometimes you get lucky like that. And I was very glad that happened and that I met some friends out of the whole process.
Yay, friends. Okay. What's my next one?
There it is.
Yes, another Katsucon anxiety story. So remember when I was talking about the maid cosplay photo shoot? Well, this is the results of that photo shoot. It was a lot of fun, but this is not about that year. This is about my first Katsucon, 2013, and just kind of give you some background to Katsucon 2013. There was a Jewish youth convention going on at the same time as Katsucon, and they wanted the gazebo level to themselves, so they tried to both Jewish Youth Convention and Katsucon tried to come up with a compromise to use the gazebo level. So what they did is they did this dividing line between where the gazebo was and the other side of it, and I thought it was a bad idea. Everyone just it's public space. Just congregate at the gazebo area. But for some reason, this Jewish youth conference was very hard pressed of having a walkway all to themselves. So that area, Wall of Jericho, had to be divided. I had to get to Masquerade Judging, and normally what I used to do with Masquerade Judging is I would just show up in costume or just wear my masquerade costume the day of. But because they scheduled me for an earlier time, I decided okay, I could just bring the costume on the hanger, just present it. Maybe I could get more, I could actually thoroughly just talk about my costume progress and whatnot. One side of the elevator, I should like in hindsight I should have like put a diagram of a map of what I had to deal with. So I needed to get to that gazebo level to get to the judging rooms where the judges for Masquerade were going to review your costumes. For some reason, I think the elevators that was on the side that's closest to the panel rooms, they were out of order because, like, yeah, conventions, out of order elevators, they kind of go hand in hand. And then I only had to use one set of elevators, meaning I had to cross the gazebo level to get to get to the judging area. So I'm just trying to like just do my best to just get my costume in order and whatnot. And I think this was before when I didn't find out they did the dividing line until after I got down the elevator, got to gazebo level, and I asked because I had to like, I was on a time crunch. Can I cross through that walkway for the Jewish convention? Because I was on a time crunch, and I used my boss lady kind of voice for it because, like, I'm not messing around here. Because the side that had the gazebos, cosplayers were just having like a sit-in. It was like the My Little Pony cosplay meetup. I didn't want to step on anyone, although I was very at that point because I was just so pissed off. I like, okay, no offense, bronies. Like, I kind of need to step on you right now to get to my cosplay judging. If you've ever seen that old movie by Alfred Hitchcock called The Birds, amazing movie. You should watch it anyway. There's a scene at the end where our main protagonists are trying to tiptoe over this scene of birds. There's birds all over the floor, birds watching over them. That was me crossing that sea of My Little Pony cosplayers. It was, if you're familiar with Simpsons, it was parodied in The Simpsons, but replaced birds with like little babies. I love that scene. And I'm just trying to like, excuse me, people weren't moving. I'm like, guys, I'm trying to get from point A to point B, and I'm feeling my anxiety. This you're just trying to shake because I'm just trying to get from one point to another. And it'd been nice if one, they let me use the walkway because I was on a time crunch. Two, if the My Little Pony cosplayers were listening to me say, excuse me, I need to get to judging, instead of just sitting in one area. Because like, hi, I don't know if you're trying to like do a sit-in protest to keep the gazebo, I don't know, but there was other people who are attending and paying for this convention too that need to go from point A to point B. Because guess what, I tried to compromise with the Jewish youth program. They want to let me through. It's like, we kind of have to be supportive of one another when we clearly see that someone is trying to get from one place to another and they're about to have a breakdown, panic attack. Thankfully, I did make it into judging. I did explain to them what the situation was, and they're aware, because people were just now made aware of the whole like divide between on the gazebo level. I mean, I didn't place that year, but that's okay. But I was still pretty proud of the costume I made because I made it like in less than 24 hours during a major snowstorm in Boston. My first snowstorm. And I had all this time to work on this cute marching band outfit because I was like, oh, I always want to have a cute marching band outfit. That's just me. All right, let's hear some submitted stories. Hey, Jared, remember Anna from the last one?
Yes.
She also submitted a story.
Okay.
All right, I'm about to read every single word of it.
All right.
Shortest story ever. Anxious AF at Anime Boston? Get on the T and go home to my wonderful bed. The end.
I always said that, and you said I'm not allowed to. I have to do my job as press.
Yes, you have to do your job as press.
And that was upsetting. I was like, no, I hate this layout, and I hate this building, and I want to go home.
I actually did post like this Anime Boston meme. If you're familiar with the Weeknd's performance at the Super Bowl, where he's like going through like this hall of lights looking lost, I put the text, finding for the karaoke room at Anime Boston. Heinz Convention Center is a maze.
Yeah, like even when you know where you're going, you still don't actually know where you're going.
Even if we've been attending this con for like what, 5 years, like where's this? I'm just trying to remember the layout, you know? All right, this also comes from our friend Christine, 16-bit laughter.
After.
Oh man, 2019 was a good example of that sheer anxiety. That line made my boyfriend had an anxiety attack flare up, which he had no idea at the time. I think they're talking about Anime Expo. Yeah, because the Anime Expo 2019 line, that was circling towards USC, and that area can get pretty sketch, and it was wicked hot that year.
That was a bad year for everyone at that con.
Yeah, and registration that year was just not the best. Back to Christine. At the time, he was scared that it was the beginning of a heart attack, so we left early. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, luckily, so he was sent home with anxiety meds. Next day was much better. Yeah, the 2019 line at AX just really sucked for everyone, and everyone was wondering, like, well, hopefully they learned their lessons for 2020. Well, 2020 was an online convention, so there's that. And I doubt AX will return in 2021 as a physical convention at the LA Convention Center.
It'd be difficult for them to do so.
Because part of the appeal of Anime Expo is getting like the Japanese industry in there, including vendors from Asia. Because I need to spend money at Bushy Road. I like Bushy Road. And we have one final submission.
Yeah, so shorter this time. I'm glad. I mean, no offense to last time. It's just more the point of, like, you know, sometimes you get those stories that just go on and make you feel really horrible. And these ones are just like, okay, yeah, this is relatable. Yeah, I get that.
And this one is from a new submitter, Sarcasm Hime, which means it's a sarcasm. I like that.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I, too, am a sarcastic person at times, and I use a lot of my sarcasm as a coping device. Whether that is healthy or unhealthy is anyone's guess. Anywho, my social anxiety has meant that over the years, I developed a rep for being cold, snooty, elitist by people who don't know me.
High fives.
Yeah, high fives. I'll buy you a lemonade if I ever see you, Sarcasm Hime. Pretty much all of my friends have said that they thought I was intimidating or scary before they got to know me. And back when the community was smaller, I was more well-known. I actually do remember seeing your name on cosplay.com, Sarcasm Hime. I remember seeing a lot of posts and really liking a lot of your photos, but that was like, wow, way back when. There were mean-spirited gossip and rumors spread about me because I had apparently snubbed so-and-so at a con or not being friendly enough. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the not being friendly enough is like, what do you want me to do? You know?
Because sometimes, like, I'll be in the corner, it's like, oh. And it's especially worse when sometimes, like, you're in a group of people and people are not being introduced, and you're waiting for your turn to be introduced. Because I was raised to be like, yeah, introduce people. Anywho.
Yeah, my new solution to that one is I just walk away from the group and do something else.
In actuality, I'm just super awkward around new people and have anxiety talking to strangers. But apparently that comes across as rudeness. In addition, when I'm trying to concentrate on judging and listening closely, people seem to think I'm being stern or cold. It's been super frustrating and hurtful to hear people say these things about me because I always try to be nice to other fans at cons, but I'm not as outgoing or as comfortable with people as some others are. And that was submitted by Sarcasm Hime.
See, that's super relatable. And I think both of us had stories where that kind of thing, got us as well. Mine I tried to make more comedic because of my headphones, but, I've had plenty of times even without headphones where it's like, dude, where were you? And I'm like, hitting up 5 panels a day and running my own panels. Where were you? It's just like, oh, well, don't be a jerk about it. I'm like, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I advertise into these panels. You want to meet up with me? It's the easiest answer. Oh, Jared's doing a robot panel at 3 o'clock. I'll just go to his panel, and after that, we'll hang out. Boom, done, solved. No one wants to think that many steps ahead. They would just go like, oh, he's doing a panel, well, whatever. I'm not going to write that down or keep track of it. I'll just hope he magically finds me. Yes, let the visually impaired person magically find you. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, and I know, like,
By the way, I like how that also makes me just sound like a jerk. The entire my defense of me being a jerk is me being a jerk.
Yeah, also, I know, like, a few people from the Bay Area, because Bay Area is where I did a lot of my cosplay stuff when I was much younger, and I didn't really have a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of people because I was kind of shy and awkward, and I was always just kind of like the quiet one, just kind of in the background for a bit. And a lot of people came up to me like in several years later, like, yeah, I always thought you're like just one of those elitist types. Like, nah, I'm just very quiet. Sometimes I don't know what to say, especially if I'm in a group of strangers and no one's introducing people or like saying like, hey, like, nice to meet you. Because sometimes I feel, because I do this now, I introduce people like, hey, this is Jared the Greek. He does this show called Eat the Magic and blah, blah, blah. Just kind of, kind of break the ice, because we're all kind of awkward, like, to certain degrees, certain levels. And I just think it'd just be nice if people, like, like, just don't judge too hard, But another thing that we also just kind of quickly want to bring up is, how can the convention community support those folks who are going to conventions with anxiety? Because anxiety doesn't leave doesn't leave you.
Yeah, you could leave the con, but you can't leave your anxiety.
Mm-hmm. You can go to the con, you can leave your home, go to the con, but the anxiety is still going to be with you at the con.
The problem is there's really not much an organization can do for this kind of thing because it's so individual, based. There are some conventions that do have some like quieter rooms. You just have to know what rooms those are. If you're at Anime Boston, go to that Gunpla room. No one's going to bother you.
There's also manga libraries that also kind of helped me. Like when I was at Kineticon, when I was rolling solo, Kineticon is a huge convention. A lot of people there. A lot of things can get pretty noisy. So, okay, I'm going to go to the manga library. Like, oh, hey, Peach Troll, I haven't read you in a while.
Because I go on the rule of, I think it's more on yourself and your group. Because I know some people are going to be going solo. I'm lucky I had friends at those moments in my stories. You're lucky you had some friends at some of those moments in your stories. And sometimes you don't. Both of us have stories of me going, my A&B contest, that was it. I just happened to meet some nice people. I got lucky on that one.
And I think we could do more as a community. Like if you see someone like about to have a panic attack and they're alone, I mean, just do your best to help them, offer them water, get them to a safe and quiet place where they can at least breathe. That's kind of visible, so it's not like...
Yeah, so it's on both sides. Because also another point, sometimes even moving the person's just going to make things worse as well. But if you can get them a chair, if you can get them a fan, or even if you have one of those, some summer cons will give those, every other booth will just give you one of those paper fans, and you just fan them a little bit. That really helps. There's little things like that you can do.
So I feel like this is more like we can start as a community to just kind of learn like how to like help out each other before conventions can really implement anything, because there's a lot of inconsistencies of what conventions can implement. Whereas like, hey, if someone needs to like just get to a place and they're trying to like make their way through and they seem a little bit panicked, make way for them. If you see someone who has a panic attack or just kind of looking like they have difficulty breathing, see what you can do for them. Like, do you need water? Do you need some air? Do you need someone on staff or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it, like I said, is just knowing, even if you have your own, like, what is my escape plan? Like, my ADV story, I said when I go back to the booth, I'd say, okay, wait for the big grouping to be done, go hang out at another booth that's not associated with anything, just look at whatever, wait for the group to disperse. What's the time on my phone say? It's 11:15. Okay, we're out of here by 11. We're finishing our shopping at that booth by 11:30. And being able to just take a little bit of that kind of personal responsibility, like you said, knowing about a manga room or knowing about, even cosplay repair rooms sometimes will be pretty chill with that. Some will, some won't.
Yeah, some cosplay repair stations, because they have very limited supply or they have just kind of funky rules. Like, okay, in and out.
There's one con where their room...
I forgot about that one.
That was one where, like, I was having some issues and they were not...
Yeah, you were having issues and I just wanted to just... because I'm technically your handler, because of disability reasons. Like, hi, like, yeah, it looks like I'm chilling, but I'm not really chilling here. He has a visual impairment, and I kind of have to make sure he's okay.
Secondary issues that were going on, which I didn't include that story because I didn't think about that until now. But knowing about some of those rooms can really help. I mean, and knowing what rooms to avoid. You might love coin-op arcade games, but maybe
those places can get really noisy.
Those rooms can get noisy. They can get crowded. Now, if you hit them at the right time, you might be fine. And especially for some of those 24-hour cons, you could go there at 10 o'clock and probably be fine.
Yeah, that's why I like going to the game rooms later in the evening. Less
But,
late.
if you can know those kinds of things, if you're like, okay, we're going to hit the dealer hall at the end of the day because there's going to be less people there, or, if it's a, groups of people thing. Now, if it's a social anxiety thing, if it's being around groups and, who to say goodbye to or hello to first, well, that's, again...
It says more about them.
That's more about them than you.
They're snubbing you. I was like, yeah, that says more about them.
They're the ones who need to be like, oh, I know Joey has anxiety stuff, so I'm just going to go up to Joey and go, hey, Joey, how's it going? What's up? Yeah, man, it's cool to see you at the con. If you need a friend to hang out with because your anxiety kicks in, I'm here. Or what have you. There are ways of doing that, offering that, outstretched hand to someone. Even if they say, no, I'm not going to need it, I'm cool. Say, yeah, dude, though, any problems, call me immediately, and I'll do my best to get there, assuming we're not at Anime Expo where there's zero connection.
Because that's the other hard thing, too. Like, you can say you can be there for someone, but you also have to factor in, like, yeah, signal can suck.
Yeah.
Or, like, I might be in the middle of something that I can't exactly get out of because
Yeah.
I'm dealing with my own emergencies. Because I remember the time when our ride from Anime X, I had to bail, and I had to call my dad to figure things out.
Yeah, so those things can happen. I think it's a point of just learning to be a bit more compassionate with people. But then
And it starts
also,
from there.
if you're an anxiety-prone person, have that escape plan. Like the first thing there, if I had the anxiety at Anime Boston, hopped on the T and went home. Sometimes that has to be the answer. I generally go on the rule of I try not to make... Escape is usually the thing I will say, but honestly, I'm glad that I stayed at the cons I stayed at. And I don't think I've ever left a con, unless other reasons, but I've never left a con for anxiety. We've left cons for stories we'll eventually tell, for sure.
I mean, we've had to leave theme parks because of anxiety.
That's a different
Yes,
story.
that's a different world, but the thing is we also have, like, annual passes, so,
Yeah.
like, it's no big deal if, like, okay.
Yes, if anxiety's kicking in at that, it's just like, hey, fine, whatever.
We can go on a weekday.
We'll go on a weekday. It's great. So, like I said, I think that really helps. And some cons make that a bit easier to do than others. Smaller events, another anime con you mentioned, that has like a manga lounge. It has
Plenty of space.
plenty of space to just find a place to just sit and breathe.
And even just, like, sipping out the convention center, there's that little courtyard with all the autumn foliage. Like, yes, private cosplay photo shoots are happening, but they're very sparse. They're very social distance.
Yeah, one of the things I always loved about any convention I've gone to Long Beach, well, I have mixed things about that. Long Beach Convention Center has these little tables and stuff just set up by their windows. And those seats usually aren't taken. You can usually find a free seat there and put on your headphones or just breathe or whatever you need to do. And when Expo was there, you go down that pathway and there's the one hotel. Which hotel is that?
Hyatt?
The Hyatt. At the Hyatt, the second floor of the Hyatt is where my friends would go. I had some artist friends and stuff I would go with, and artists, as you know, sometimes get a little tired of being around people. And they just would find one of those seats there on that second floor and would just start sketching. And that was their way of dealing with their anxiety. And that was fine, except for me, it was super boring because they're drawing and I want to do stuff. But I had my own issues I was dealing with, so... But thankfully, I think it was also the same floor that had video rooms. So sometimes I'd go, cool, guys, I'm going to watch what's over in this room. That's how I saw The Adventures of the Mini Goddesses.
I love Mini Goddesses. It's a cute series. Okay, next slide. Upcoming shows. I believe it's been unanimous and decided that our next show is going to be about food at conventions.
Yes, both sneaking food in, good restaurants, bad restaurant experiences. Ooh, I can tell about my favorite story I like to tell about Anime Central.
And I could tell my story about, like, why you should never eat at the Galaxy food court at the Los Angeles Convention Center.
Oh, and everyone at Italy can go straight to hell.
Yes.
Also, the guy who made that, who has been Me Too'd, though that wasn't particularly public.
Yes, food at conventions. Really looking forward to that one. I know, like, I feel like we can talk about Anime Impulse or food at conventions because that's also a food con.
Yes. Well, there's also events like that, yeah, that was just food here, food there. I mean, like, one of my favorite parts of Fanime is that the fact that I think Psycho Donuts shows up there, and then whoever does those takoyakis. I don't remember the name of whatever group comes in and does the takoyaki at Fanime, but honestly, that could be my breakfast, lunch, and dinner And I would not get sick of it by the end of the con.
I love fanime since we started coming back after 2012 when they just started bringing all those Japanese food places in dealers hall because like, okay, yes, takoyaki, delicious. Psycho donuts, delicious. Lots of amazing food choices, but it's the shame that Peggy Sue's also shut down for good because of 2020 reasons. But anywho, that's more stories for...
Well, how we're going to give all this information about really great restaurants for certain cons, and
I like
there's
Sad
no
Face.
guarantee they're going to be around.
They're a memory. They live in our hearts and our stomachs.
Felipe's is still around, so that makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's an easy food place to get to all at
I
Expo,
even tried, like, at Expo to see if they did, like, late-night delivery to the hotel, and I didn't. That made me sad.
Felipe's didn't do delivery then. They might do delivery now, but they didn't do delivery then.
Okay.
I love Felipe's.
Anime Expo, the Long Beach years.
I've used most of my good stories, I'll be honest, with that one, but we can see what happens.
Animagic Explained.
That, yeah, there's stories there where I'm going to have to hide names to protect the guilty.
And we could also just talk about the craziness that was the convention rules. They had rules such as wash your butt, literally. We want to see all your anime t-shirts.
They lost my registration information. One of 2 conventions that have done that. 3, excuse me. There's a 3rd convention that did that as well. That one was Anime Expo. That was 2019, and that wasn't so much anxiety so much as I wanted to get like a sledgehammer and just smash everything. That was Hulk smash level of like frustration.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Masquerade Madness, behind the scenes of Masquerade. What could go wrong? I would like to have some submissions for this one because I think I can get some good stories out of this too.
Yeah, that's more of a you. I don't have a lot of Masquerade stories.
Or if anyone wants to like collaborate, if I could figure out how to like do the 2-camera thing on Streamlabs and put it onto Twitch or something. Awesome. Panel that goes wrong.
I have stories. We have stories, yeah.
The Craig Yamaguchi story.
Okay, seriously, he does not deserve his own thing of this. No offense, Craig. You're cool and all. But, like, if that's the case, I want to have Jared talks about his entire AMV experience and just have an entire panel that's me talking about me.
All right. Hotel roommates from hell.
Yeah, but some of them were inflicted on me by other people. Most of the worst ones were inflicted on me by other people.
We've had some good ones finding hotel roommates online, but once you get to like a certain age and a certain income, yeah, let's just get our own hotel room.
I'm trying to remember what con it was that had like someone who almost made me hate a waifu character because the person was cosplaying as her, but was such a word I can't say. But you know what word I'm thinking of. It's the least nice way to refer to a woman.
Mm-hmm. Anywho, hotel roommates from hell. Because I know you and I have some. All right, closing remarks. All right, you can find us on our YouTube page, Scarlet Rhapsody Convention Culture. There's 2 YouTube pages. Subscribe to both of them, but we're hoping to get monetized on Scarlet Rhapsody Convention Culture. Twitter, you can follow us at Cons and Churros. Facebook, Scarlet Rhapsody. We have a Patreon, and like, hey, if you any dollar amount, anything helps, just send us money your way from Patreon, Ko-Fi. I'm not good at this promotional stuff for money because, you know what, we do this for fun, but, you know, if people want their own donations, you're more than welcome to. Website, scarletrhapsody.com. Check us out on the web. And remember, above all, if you're living with anxiety, just remember to always breathe.
I want to just do the Jerry Springer sign off. Remember to love yourself and each other.
How many people remember Jerry Springer?
Well, that depends how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'd explain who he was to my brother.
We are childless millennials. Okay, just remember, keep breathing.
Okay, I'm going to hit the restroom because I drank an entire bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.